Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something pretty wild, an unconventional blueprint for making a massive income in cybersecurity.
So, the material we're looking at lays out a path to this exact number. But here's the thing. It is not what you're probably thinking. We're not talking about becoming a C-level exec or grinding it out for a top job at some FANG company. You know the traditional path, right? It's that slow, competitive climb up the corporate ladder. Well, this blueprint, it just throws that whole idea out the window. Instead, the strategy is all about becoming a super skilled individual contributor, getting really good at a couple of things, and then, this is the key, stacking multiple remote contract jobs all at the same time. Okay, so how is this even possible? What's the fundamental idea that makes all this work? Well, it all boils down to one thing, leveraging your skills to, and this sounds dramatic, but to essentially bend time in your favor. Think about it. In a knowledge-based job, the better you get, the faster you are. The whole goal is to become so ridiculously efficient that you can crush a full 8-hour workday in just a couple of hours. And that efficiency, that's what opens up the time and space to take on another job, or maybe even a third one, all within a normal work week. All right, so to pull this off, you have to be really smart about your job hunt. You can't just go out and apply for anything. It's all about targeting very, very specific kinds of roles. So the blueprint is pretty clear on this. You want to go for contract positions, not full-time jobs. And there are a few huge reasons why. For starters, the pay is usually way better. The hiring process is often quicker, less of a headache, and maybe most importantly, the scope of work is way more defined. All of that makes it so much easier to juggle multiple gigs. And it's not just about the type of job, it's about the domain. You're looking for roles that give you flexibility. Think stuff like vulnerability management or GRC, that's governance, risk, and compliance. In these roles, the work is often asynchronous, which basically means you do your part and then you wait for someone else. What you absolutely have to avoid are those super high-stress, always-on-call jobs like incident response or working at a SOC, a security operations center, because those demand your attention 24/7. Now, here's where things get really interesting. The blueprint argues that the biggest hurdles aren't the technical skills, they're personal. It's not just about learning new stuff, it's about fundamentally changing who you are to be able to execute this. And the source material does not mince words on this point. It basically says that to earn this kind of money, the old version of you has to go. The habits, the mindset, the entire lifestyle of a normal person, that just won't cut it to reach this level. So this rebirth really breaks down into 3 key areas. First, you've got to optimize your social circle. Basically, cutting out people who are energy vampires. Second, your values have to change. You stop chasing flashy stuff and start obsessing over optimizing your time and energy. And third, and this is huge, you completely rebuild your body because your physical health is the bedrock for all of this. Let's put this in video game terms because it makes perfect sense. First up, you have to max out your HP, your health points. This means getting your fitness, your diet, and your sleep absolutely dialed in. Why? Because your physical health is the fuel for your brain. Once your HP is maxed out, that directly boosts your MP or your mana points, which is just your raw energy. I mean, the source claims that getting into exceptional shape can give you at least 50% more energy every single day, and you're going to need every bit of it to juggle these demanding jobs. And then there's this final piece, the halo effect. This is a real psychological thing. It's a bias where people see someone who's physically fit and subconsciously think, wow, that person is disciplined. So when you walk into an interview looking like you've got your stuff together physically, they're more likely to assume you've got your stuff together professionally too. Okay, to maintain the kind of focus this plan needs, you basically have to go on a dopamine diet. You have to cut out all that easy, cheap dopamine you get from just scrolling social media. You starve your brain of that low-tier junk, and it forces it to start craving the high-tier dopamine, the good stuff you get from actually building things and learning new skills. You know, the activities that are actually going to get you there. All right, so you've done the personal rebirth. You've got the mindset locked in. Now what? Well, here's the exact step-by-step technical roadmap. And according to this blueprint, this part is pretty much non-negotiable. And what's so wild about this roadmap is how specific it is. This isn't just work hard advice. It's 8 hours of focused effort every single day. No 0 days. It even recommends a specific degree just to get past HR filters. It says you need to master 3 tech skills so well you could build a lab from memory. And maybe the craziest part, It tells you to start your own company just to get real-world experience on your resume. Let's zoom in on the certs for a second. Again, super specific. It's basically a three-part combo. You need a big, high-level one, like the CISSP. Then you add a solid mid-tier one, like a CISA or CCNA. And finally, you stack on a bunch of domain-specific certs for stuff like Azure, so you're perfectly lined up for the jobs you're going after. Now, this part about experience is a total game changer. The advice is basically, stop messing around with practice labs that nobody ever sees. Instead, you literally form your own company, an LLC, you build a real product, and you get real people to use it. The point isn't to make $1 million from it. The point is to get that priceless, real-world experience that you can then talk about in an interview. Okay, so let's say you actually do all this. You follow this incredibly intense blueprint to the letter. What's the payoff? And what's the real cost? Well, according to the source, if you can actually maintain that insane pace, 8 hours a day, no 0 days, this whole process, from starting from scratch to being ready to pull in that $500,000 income, can be done in under 2 years. I mean, that is just an insane compression of a normal career path.
But, and this is a huge but, the whole thing comes with a massive warning label. This path is not for everyone. In fact, it's not for most people. It's described as being extremely difficult, requiring a level of focus and sacrifice that is just immense. This isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It's more like a get-rich-hard plan. So that really brings us to the final question, and this one's for you. You've seen the blueprint. You know the strategy. You understand the personal transformation it requires. You've seen the technical roadmap, and you've heard about the incredible sacrifice involved. So now that you have the plan, is the price really worth the payoff?